Have you noticed that something feels wrong with the American dream? I'm not talking about inflation or gas prices. I'm talking about something deeper. Look around your neighborhood. Look at the houses on your street. Who actually owns them? You probably think it is families, couples starting their lives, or maybe a retired veteran. But what if I told you that is a lie? What if I told you that the street you live on, the house you want to buy, and the very ground beneath your feet is slowly being swallowed by a single entity that has more money than the entire GDP of Germany, Japan, and India combined? You are not just imagining it. The reason you cannot afford a home right now isn't because you are bad with money. It is not because you didn't save enough. It is because you are competing against a machine that has $10 trillion in assets and a secret plan to turn you into a permanent renter. They call it the Great Reset. We call it the greatest theft in human history. Welcome back to George Vance Live. I'm your host, guiding you through the smoke and mirrors of the global economy. If you want to understand who is really pulling the strings of your financial future, you need to click that subscribe button right now. Do not just watch history happen. Understand it so you can survive it. We are building a community of realists here, and we want you on the team. Let's start with a reality check. Picture a young couple in Atlanta or Phoenix or Nashville. They have good jobs, they have saved for 5 years, and they finally find a modest 3-bedroom house listed for $300,000. They are excited. They put in an offer at full asking price, but within an hour they get rejected. Why? Because someone else came in and offered $350,000, all cash, no inspection required, closing in 3 days. That young couple? They did not stand a chance. They were not fighting another family. They were fighting BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. These aren't just investment firms. They are the architects of a new feudalism. Here is the data that the George Vance report has uncovered. In the first quarter of this year alone, investors bought nearly 1 in every 5 homes sold in the United States. In some neighborhoods, that number is over 50%. Think about that. Half the homes in a community are not owned by the people living in them. They are owned by a faceless corporation headquartered in a skyscraper in New York City. Why are they doing this? Why does an investment firm want to deal with fixing leaky toilets and mowing lawns? The answer is terrifyingly simple. They do not want the house. They want the control. They know that if you own a home, you have security. You have wealth. You have a voice. But if you rent, you are dependent. You are manageable. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, famously writes letters to CEOs every year telling them how to run their businesses. But his actions speak louder than his letters. BlackRock is paying 20 to 30% above market value for single-family homes. They are artificially inflating the market so that you, the regular American citizen, are priced out forever. They are creating a generation of renters. It is not a conspiracy theory when they are doing it in plain sight. They have literally said, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Well, they got the first part right. You will own nothing. But I doubt you will be happy paying $3,000 a month for a house you can never call your own. But this goes deeper than just real estate. This is where the George Vance analysis connects the dots that the mainstream media ignores. To understand BlackRock, you have to understand Aladdin. No, not the Disney movie. Aladdin is the name of BlackRock's supercomputer. It is an artificial intelligence system that monitors every single trade, every risk, and every asset in the global market. It is estimated that Aladdin oversees $21 trillion in assets. That is nearly the size of the entire United States economy. This computer decides who gets money and who does not. It decides which companies survive and which ones fail. And here is the scary part. Aladdin doesn't care about your job. It doesn't care about your town. It cares about efficiency and control. When we talk about the secret plan to own everything, we're talking about the centralization of power. Look at the products in your house right now. Your iPhone? BlackRock is a top shareholder in Apple. The soda in your fridge? BlackRock owns a huge chunk of Coca-Cola. The gas in your car? ExxonMobil, Chevron? BlackRock is there too. Okay? They own a piece of almost every single company in the S&P 500. This means they don't just control the housing market. They control the supply chain, the media, the healthcare system, and the defense industry. When one company holds the leash on the entire economy, free market capitalism is dead. We are living in a corporate oligarchy disguised as a democracy. Now, you might be asking, George, how is this legal? Isn't this a monopoly? That is the brilliant trick. They don't own 100% of these companies. They own 5% here, 10% there. But that is enough to control the board of directors. It is enough to force these companies to adopt policies that hurt you but help them. This brings us to the most dangerous weapon in their arsenal, ESG, environmental, social, and governance scores. This sounds nice, doesn't it? Who doesn't want a clean environment or social justice? But in reality, ESG is a credit score for companies. If a company doesn't follow the political agenda set by Larry Fink and his friends, BlackRock cuts off their funding. Let me give you a concrete example of how this impacts your wallet. Why do you think American oil companies stopped drilling as much, causing gas prices to skyrocket? It wasn't just government regulation. It was because the big asset managers told them, if you drill for more oil, we will lower your ESG score and dump your stock. So the oil companies complied. Supply went down, prices went up, and you paid the price at the pump. This is how they control your life without passing a single law in Congress. They use your own retirement money, your 401k, your pension fund, to force companies to push agendas that actively harm the economy. They are using your money to buy up your neighborhood and rent it back to you. It is the ultimate betrayal. Let's go back to the housing market for a moment, because this is where the end game is most visible. BlackRock isn't just buying old houses. They are building new communities entirely for rent. These are called build-to-rent neighborhoods. Imagine an entire suburb where no one owns anything. The landlord is a corporation that can raise the rent on everyone simultaneously by 20% just because an algorithm said so. If you complain, where do you go? They own the house down the street too. This destroys the fabric of a community. Homeownership is the number one way Americans build generational wealth. It is how you pass something down to your children. By erasing that, they are ensuring that the next generation starts with zero. It creates a permanent underclass that lives paycheck to paycheck, forever beholden to the corporate landlord. We are seeing a shift from a stakeholder economy to a rentership society, and it is happening fast. During the chaos of the last few years, while small businesses were being crushed and families were losing their savings, these massive firms were buying up assets at a discount. It was the greatest transfer of wealth in history. And they are not done. The George Vance team has been tracking their moves into farmland now. Yes, farmland. Bill Gates is the largest private owner of farmland in the US, but the institutional money is following close behind. Why farmland? Because if you control the land, you control the food. And if you control the food, you control the people. It is the same strategy as housing, just applied to survival. There is another layer to this onion, and it involves the Federal Reserve. You see, BlackRock isn't just a private company. They are essentially a fourth branch of government. During the financial crisis of 2008 and again in 2020, who did the Federal Reserve hire to manage the bailout programs? BlackRock. The government gave them the checkbook to bail out the corporate bond market. Imagine that. The government prints money, gives it to BlackRock, and BlackRock uses that money to buy up corporate debt. It is a revolving door of power. The line between the state and the corporation has been erased. This is why we say, get out now. We mean get out of the mindset that the system is there to protect you. It is not. The system is designed to feed the beast. So what is the secret plan? It is consolidation. They want to consolidate resources into fewer and fewer hands. They want a world where you subscribe to everything and own nothing. You subscribe to your housing, you subscribe to your transportation, you subscribe to your entertainment, and maybe one day you even subscribe to your food delivery. It turns a citizen into a user. A user has no rights, only terms of service. And terms of service can be changed at any time. If you violate their ESG standards, or if your social credit score drops, maybe your lease doesn't get renewed, maybe your bank account gets frozen. We have seen trial runs of this in other countries, and the infrastructure is being built right here in the US. But I want to pause here because I know this sounds overwhelming. It feels like a giant wave crashing over you. However, recognizing the wave is the first step to not drowning. The George Vance report is not about fear. It is about preparation. There are cracks in their armor. They are leveraging themselves to the hilt. They are betting that you will stay asleep. They are betting that you will keep putting your money into their passive index funds without asking questions. They are betting that you will accept the new normal. The housing market is currently in a bubble partially inflated by this institutional buying, but history tells us that all bubbles burst. When this one does, BlackRock will look to buy even more, but that is also a window of opportunity for the prepared. We need to be smarter than them. We need to look for assets they cannot easily control. We need to support local banks, local businesses, and find ways to own tangible assets that are not just digits on a screen managed by Aladdin. Let's talk about the psychological aspect of this takeover. They rely on demoralization. They want you to feel like owning a home is impossible, so you stop trying. They want you to accept that high inflation is just a fact of life, so you lower your standard of living. Do not give them that victory. The American spirit is about independence. It is about fighting for your patch of dirt. The moment you surrender your ambition to own property is the moment their plan succeeds. Look at the media narrative lately. Have you seen articles with headlines like, "Why renting is actually better than buying," or "The burden of homeownership"? That is not journalism. That is marketing. That is propaganda designed to make you feel good about losing your future. They are manufacturing consent for your own poverty. When you see those headlines, recognize them for what they are: a sales pitch from the people who want to be your landlord. We are also seeing a massive push towards digital currency. This ties directly into the control grid. If physical cash is eliminated and replaced by a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, every transaction you make can be tracked and controlled. Who is pushing for this? The same financial giants. Why? Because cash is freedom. Cash is private. You can buy a used car with cash, and no algorithm knows about it. You can pay a local handyman with cash, and BlackRock doesn't get a cut. They want to eliminate those loopholes. They want every dollar to move through their digital turnstiles so they can tax it, track it, and control it. The plan is comprehensive. It covers where you live, what you buy, what you eat, and how you pay. But it relies on compliance. It relies on the silence of the majority. That is why we are making this video. That is why George Vance Live exists, to break the silence. So what can you actually do? First, get educated on where your money is. If you have a pension or a 401k, look at what funds you're invested in. Are you investing in the very companies that are buying up your neighborhood? There are alternatives. There are funds that focus on pro-American, pro-freedom businesses. Vote with your wallet. Second, get out of debt. Debt is the chain they use to drag you into their system. The less you owe them, the less control they have over you. Third, build community. If you can't afford to buy a house alone, maybe you can buy with family. Maybe you can pool resources. They operate as a collective. We need to start thinking like a community too. And finally, spread the word. This is an information war. The mainstream news is sponsored by these companies like Pfizer and Boeing and BlackRock. They are never going to tell you the truth about their owners. You are the media now. Sharing this video, talking to your neighbors, explaining to your friends why they can't afford a house, that is how we wake people up. This isn't just about economics, it's about liberty. It is about the freedom to chart your own course in life without needing permission from a board of directors in New York. The secret plan to own everything only works if we let them take it. They are betting against you. They are betting against America. I say we take the other side of that trade. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Look at your own town. Are you seeing these for rent signs popping up on houses that used to be owned by families? Share your story. We need to document this. The data is one thing, but your stories are the proof. If you found value in this report, if you want to keep receiving this kind of raw, unfiltered intelligence, make sure you are subscribed to George Vance Live. Turn on the notifications. We are going to keep digging. We are going to keep exposing the agenda, and we are going to keep fighting for the truth. This is George Vance signing off. Watch your wallet, watch the headlines, and stay free.